Hey everyone, welcome to another crash course. In today's video, we'll dive deep into three important loops in JavaScript: the for loop, for of loop, and while loop. Understanding when to use each type is crucial for writing efficient and effective code. We will explore each loop step by step with practical examples and discuss the best use cases. Let's start by understanding what a loop is. A loop is a programming construct that allows you to execute the same block of code multiple times. When to use loops: repeating a task without writing the same codes, iterating through collections like arrays or strings, continuing executing as long as specified conditions remain true. Let us start with the for loop. The for loop is great when you know exactly how many times you want to execute a block of code. It gives you complete control over the iteration process, making it ideal for situations where you have a predefined number of iterations. This is the basic syntax for the for loop. It has an initialization, condition, and increment. So now let us start with a practical example, counting from 1 up to 5. We'll start with the for keyword, then brackets. Then, as you know, inside the brackets we have an initializer, condition, and increment. Here we start with the initializer by saying let I, which is the initializer, equal to 1. This is because we are counting from 1. Therefore, the initializer or the beginning should be 1. After the initializer, we put there semicolon. And now we specify our condition. We are supposed to count from 1 up to 5. Therefore, you understand 5 is also included. Then our condition should be I less than or equal to 5. If we are not supposed to include 5, we shouldn't put there this equal. But we are supposed to reach up to 5, therefore we should have the equal. Then the third item should be the increment. We are now going to be incrementing I by 1. This is how we write. Writing like this means we are adding 1 to the I after every iteration. After that, we specify our curly braces, and inside this is where our code goes. Now we just want to print the numbers. Therefore, we just want to print numbers within our string templates like number, and then we can specify the number, which is I. So please note this again. In the block we use console to print out number I. The I variable here, this is how we write the syntax within a template literal. Template literals we use backticks, allowing us to embed values of I in the string. Now it will be reading like number 1, number 2, and so on. Also note how we increment the value I. So we increment it with a 1. This means every iteration we shall be adding a 1, or every loop we are going to be adding a 1. So now the way we run this, we can open our terminal by clicking here, or on our MacBooks and Windows, pressing Ctrl and backtick. Now we can run our command using node and index. We can use tab for auto completion. We can see now we have run our for loop and it has printed number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. It started from 1 because we have our initializer starting from 1. Again, this shouldn't always be I. We can always make it any alphabet we want, or any word we want, or any text we want, as long as it is meaningful. So it will stop up to 5 because our condition says I should be less than or equal to 5. So please, this is how we can use for loop, and this is a basic example. So again, I repeat, we use for loop in this case when you need a specific number of iterations, such as counting. This is ideal for scenarios like creating a list of items and so on. Let us now look at another example using the for loop. But first, let me collapse this and close my terminal. So I'll clear this, and now we're going to be looking at the second example, looping through an array using for loop. So now let's see how we can use a for loop to iterate over an array. First, we will declare our array. After now declaring our array called fruits, which is containing 4 elements, now let's start our for loop. So we'll just use the for keyword, and inside we'll start with our initializer. We'll start with our initializer being I equal to 0. Now followed with a condition. But first, why did we use I equal to 0? This is because in arrays, the index should always start from 0. And we are going to be iterating through these arrays. Therefore, starting from an index of 0, then going to an index of 1, and so on. Therefore, we should always use our initializer as 0. Always in arrays, you mostly use the initializer as 0. The next will follow with the condition. Our condition is going to be I less than fruits length to continue looping as long as I is less than that length of the fruits array. So this is I less than fruits dot length. Notice something, we did not put there an equal sign. If we dare put there an equal sign, it means we'll be now exceeding these items. So let's take an example. Let me explain this. You can now see the length is 4. So this is like saying I less than 4. Therefore, this means that since we are starting from 0, the 4th index is not going to be included because 3 indexes should be enough. 3 up to the 3rd index should be enough because we're starting from 0. 0, 1, 2, 3. Therefore, we shouldn't have equal sign because this might end up having a 4th index. So, after this, now we should specify our increment. This is mostly going to be the same. And now we can now go ahead with our codes inside here. So remember, we want to do this. Remember, we want to iterate through our array. So therefore, we shall just print. We are using again template literals to make sure that we have strings with variables together. Then we shall say fruit at index. Maybe this, we specify the I because I is printing the index. And then we can specify the fruit exactly. So we can specify the fruit by doing this. Fruits, and then we put in square brackets and put in our I. Remember, this will print, or this will show the exact fruit, because doing fruit in the index usually prints a fruit, either this or that. If we like say fruits 0, it is going to print apple. Fruit 1, then banana, and so on. Therefore, if we run this, we should expect to see our result. So I'll bring back the same command. You can now see fruit at index 0 is apple, fruit at index 1 is banana, and so on. So this is how you can iterate through an array, and you can always execute certain codes in relation to what you want to achieve. Right now, I just wanted to show the index and the matching fruit. So now let us look at the second loop, the for of loop. The for of loop is a modern and cleaner way of iterating over iterable objects, such as arrays and strings. Use this loop when you want to access the values directly without needing the index. This is the basic syntax of the for loop. And let us start with a simple example of looping through an array, the same as we did before using the for loop, but we're going to be using for of loop. So now we'll start by defining the same array. So we'll start our for of loop by using for, and then defining the item of the fruits. So remember, this is coming from here, and this is just any name you give to yourself. You could say item or so on, but I'm using fruit because it should make sense to this. So now we can just print our fruits just like this. We can just print our fruit. So if we run this, you can see that it is going to go through all the fruits within our array and print it. We can still use the string, the template literals like this, fruit, and then you specify your fruit like this. It will still be the same, just that we shall get fruit and the name and so on like this: fruit apple, fruit banana, and so on, which is actually better. Now let us look at another example so that you understand it more. Let us look at an example which is more of a string. Let us say constant name being equal to John. And now we can iterate through this string by saying constant letter from, of the name, and then we can console.log whatever we want. We can say maybe letter, and then we specify the letter. So the reason why we're getting this, it is because mostly our VS Code will think that we're using certain keywords. Let us rename this to first name, and then we can come and use it here like this, which is now going to be gone. If we run, we can see it will iterate through, or it will loop through the letters of the text John. Now let us look at the third loop, the while loop. The while loop is unique because it continues to execute as long as the specified condition remains true. Use this loop when the number of iterations is not known beforehand and depends on some condition being met. This is how the syntax of the while loop looks. The while keyword in brackets the condition, then inside the curly braces the code to be executed. So now let us look at an example of counting down from 5 using while. So we shall start by the start, which is going to be 5. Now we can start with while keyword, and we can specify while I is greater than 0. Remember, we are not going to exceed this 5. So we start with just saying I equal to 5, and the loop condition is going to be I greater than 0, meaning that we keep looping as long as I is greater than 0. Then we can specify our codes inside the curly braces. We can say console.log I. Then after consoling this, if we just print this for now, see what is going to happen. So it is continuing to count, and we are not actually decrementing or incrementing, so that we can maybe have the condition stop. We can have the looping stop when the condition is false. We can now say we're going to be decrementing. So doing this, decrementing this I, will mean that we are starting from 5, then we'll be decrementing 4, 3, 2, 1 until 0, and this condition is going to be false. Then that is when our looping will stop. So watch this. If now we run the same thing, you can see it will loop and decrement until the condition becomes false, and that is when it is going to stop. In case the condition doesn't become false, it will never. So please be careful with the while loop. So to summarize, we covered 3 types of loop: for of, and the while loop. Each loop serves different purposes, and choosing the right one depends on your specific needs. Here are some of the best practices to consider. Use for loop when you know the exact number of iterations. You need access to the index of the array or collection. And now use the for of loop when you want to iterate through values of an iterable object directly. By object I mean array or strings. You don't need the index here, making your code cleaner and easier to read. Now where should we use while? We should use while when the number of iteration is not predetermined and relies on the dynamic condition. You can also use it when you want to keep looping until a specified condition is met. Thanks for watching. I hope this video helped you understand the different types of loops in JavaScript and when to use them. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more programming tutorials and crash courses. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. See you in the next video. Happy coding.